Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on when or where you might be listening to this, the 6th episode of the Huron Christian Church podcast. This, of course, is our missions and guest episode, and we are very happy to have our guest with us today, which we'll get to in just a second. But if you haven't had an opportunity yet to check out our previous 5 episodes, those are up on our YouTube channel. Our 4th episode with Diamond Willow has actually been recorded with video, so you can go ahead and watch that podcast as well. And just a quick update on the ongoing process of getting our podcast uploaded to your favorite podcast platform. We have been talking with our IT guru, John Hofer, who has been helping us work out some of the bugs with getting those podcast episodes on those platforms. And so we've done some test runs and things like that. And so we're very happy with that progress. And barring any other setbacks, that should be happening here very shortly and quite possibly even with this episode here. So keep an eye out for that. Of course, we'll update you via email and at the Sunday services and in different ways, Facebook, all that good stuff to let you know when those episodes are up on those platforms. So just keep your eyes and ears open for that. I suppose, without further ado, Al, I'm going to have you introduce our 2 guests today.
Very happy to be able to introduce our guests. They both come from Crossroads Church Partner Ministry, which is, well, they'll get in a lot more detail, but it's been dear to my heart, part of a Bible college existence that I attended, and just have a lot of history and memories with that has continued on, and looking forward to hearing their story as we go forward. But the 2 guys are good friends of mine. Curtis Mcginnis is one of the just a great leader in the church. He's been in church work, new church planning. He's been a pastor. He's been a professor, now helping lead Crossroads Church Planners, and so just excited, our partners, and just excited to have him a part of this today. And then my bud, Todd Looney, also been a part of church ministries, youth ministries, and just worked with the church and other organizations that help bring people to Christ. And so he also is on board helping be in our outreach for Crossroads Church Partners, and being able to bring the message of what's needed and recruit people to be a part of the program. So we're excited to have him here today as well. So some good information. I just hope that everyone gains a little better perspective today of what this is all about.
Thanks, Curtis. My name is Todd Looney, and yeah, my background with Crossroads College and Minnesota Bible College, and I also attended there. But one of the things that lands in my camp is that I was a youth pastor, and I know since this is radio, you can't see all my flannel graphs and my pizza. So that's what we do at youth ministry. Pizza parties and things like that. But one of the things that is exciting about this particular partnership, Crossroads Church Partners, is the fact that our educational partners, Russell School of Ministry and Hope International University, are two very well-respected educational partners, but that we have what we like to say is we've turned the educational model upside down, and that is this. We all have friends or family members or even someone listening that has gone into education or gone into business, and they've spent 3.5 years of an education on a bachelor's degree, and then they spend that last 3 months doing an internship or student teaching, and oh no, they've discovered that they don't like it or they're not good at it. And I just want to teach math. I love math. I want people to fall in love with math. I don't want to do seating charts. I don't want to do detention. I don't want to manage an entire classroom. Well, that's where we've turned it upside down, where a student, a person of all ages, they're interested in going into ministry. Russell School of Ministry, our first partner, we will partner with them, and they will be involved with ministry from the get-go. And one of the requirements of being a part of the residency program is you have to have a full-time person on your staff that can mentor the student. So no longer are the days when I was growing up and I want to be involved with youth ministry. Oh, great. We don't have a youth pastor. How would you be ours? And suddenly you're thrown into the lion's den, running VBS, running Sunday school, running Wednesday night. And like I said, they think, well, just make sure no one gets hurt and it'll be good. Well, what we want to do is say, hey, there's a lot more to being a pastor, no matter if it's youth or worship or children's or senior. There's a lot more skin in the game. There's a lot more teeth that need to be bitten, bitten into the whole chunk of ministry. And so you are in a residency, you are doing class, but we also say not only are you doing the lab or the book work, but you're going to be doing the lab at the same time. Things that you're learning in the classroom on a Monday, you might be implementing into your residency program, into your church on a Thursday or the following week. So it's super exciting. And then HIU comes along and says, hey, not only do we have standalone advanced training classes, collegiate level courses that we can offer some of our adults that are already professionals in their line of work, and they want to be more educated in the Christian walk, or they want to feel as if I want to test out this ministry track. They can take individual classes through HIU, but any of our students that are involved with Russell School of Ministry after 2 years, which is free to them, by the way, so that's a scholarship thing we'll talk about a little bit later, I'm sure, but then they can take those credits, and they're regionally accredited through Hope International University, and they can finish their AA. They can go on and finish their Bachelor's of Arts, Bachelor of Science, and they're regionally accredited. So the whole notion of going into ministry and then all of a sudden doing your student teaching or your internship in the summer and realizing, oh no, it's not for me, we're eliminating that. And here's the other great part. After 2 years, a student has been putting their time and effort into Russell School of Ministry, and they go ahead at the end of 2 years and realize, oh, it really isn't for me. Well, they're not stuck. What they can do is they can take those credits and move on in a different discipline with HIU and finish up in business. You want to be go physical therapy or what it is you want to do, because those 42 credits that you've just accumulated in 2 years are now regionally accredited credits that HIU is going to respect, and they will accept into their program. So that's a little bit about what the level and the kind of the trail that I'm a part of.
I can tell you that I can personally relate to that struggle. I mean, as someone, I can tell you I went to, I went to 4 different universities. I changed majors a handful of times. Always had a general idea of, what I wanted to go into, but, at the same time, it was a struggle because you're feeling things out as you go, and especially at that age, you don't have a full understanding of the world. You're learning different things, and so your your opinions and decision making processes change, and so that's something I can definitely relate to and can definitely appreciate.
One of the things about the Russell School, I almost call it the trade school approach. You know, the trades are very popular right now, and one of the things that they allow you to do is to get your hands, messy in it. Whether you're going into construction or welding or whatever the trade is, you know, you're getting that application of how to do that from virtually day one. And that's the same thing with the Russell School. Is you are from the day one, you're going to be working in a church 15 hours a week. This isn't a light thing. This is where we want you to be really a critical part of the church, and again, not just doing kind of grunt work. That's not what this is about. This is about doing actual ministry. You know, a student coming into the Huron Church here could be a part of significant ministry that is going on, and that's the other thing that Todd didn't mention, but is you might be thinking, well, I'm listening here we're listening here in eastern South Dakota, and you guys are in Rochester. I mean, how does that work? Well, technology has allowed it that we can run this program. You can be a part of this program right here. You don't have to uproot yourself. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to move your family across to a different state. You can stay here, be a part of this program, and gain all the benefits of it right here where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, we really live in a blessed time with all the access to technology that we have. You know, we've talked about it in past episodes, how, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. Like, if you misuse it, as with most things, or you know, it can be problematic and it can be dangerous, but in so many ways it can be a positive. You know, if you use it the right way, it's something that is so incredibly beneficial. And so, you know, the fact that you're able to do things like that, you know, I'm just kind of looking here, and you're looking at, you know, that Hope University. I was looking at the degrees on your website, which, quick plug, by the way, crossroadschurchpartners.org. You can check out their website and see a little bit more in depth what they have going on. And if you want to donate, you can do that through that website as well. And I believe also on your Facebook page, there's an opportunity
That's correct.
to do that. But I'm looking here and just looking at the degree opportunities. And I mean, business administration, Christian ministry, human development, liberal studies, teacher prep, criminal justice. You can get a master's in business administration, divinity, science and counseling, educational administration, education, and master of arts and ministry. I mean, there's a lot of things to choose from there too. So it's not just like, you know, you want to go into ministry, you know, go to, you know, Hope International. There's a lot of different choices for you there as well. And so that, just thank you for the things that you do in order to help with that. And maybe you can talk just a little bit more about your involvement with those programs.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. One of the things that's unique, like I was saying earlier, different than when we used to be a Bible college and Christian university, you would then be trying to attract students that, oh, you want to go in business administration? No problem. Let us do that. And you're going to be learning in a Christian environment. A little bit different in what we've had to do because of the different closing downs that we've talked about and just different struggles. We've really had to be laser focused on the students that we're going after, and those are students that have desired to go into ministry. Now, all the things that you just mentioned are fantastic for the student that their first 2 years, which is free, which we are providing. People listening might be thinking, well, gosh, I'm going to go there for 2 years, and do I end up with an AA degree? Like, because I'm thinking about, you know, I would like to do that, but my parents have said to me, you know, why don't you go to community college, get your general eds out of the way, 2 years, get your AA, and then you can transfer anywhere you want to go and that sort of thing. Well, the difference of what we're providing in 2 years than that person at a community college, and again, that's going to be the answer for some, but not all. One thing that we're going to provide at the end of 2 years, you're going to have 42 credits, which is not quite an AA degree, but you're going to have 2 years of a residency. Now, I love that word residency because it's a lot different than student teaching, or it's my internship. And Curtis mentioned earlier, if you're in the trade school, you are going right alongside that electrician, and you are getting that training. Well, the same thing goes with the ministry, Russell School of Ministry. So after the end of those 2 years, you're not going to get a full AA degree, which is normally 60 credits, but you're going to have in your back pocket 2 years of a residency, real life experience. And so from there, that's where HIU comes in. If you want to go a different direction or you want to stay in the ministry track, fantastic. HIU will help you in both those disciplines. Finish your AA in the ministry degree with HIU, and then also you can go bachelor level and then further on in the master's level as well.
I think just if we pull back a little bit and just say, okay, why is Crossroads Church Partners involved with these education partnerships? Why do you guys even do this? Part of it, if we look at the landscape of kind of the brotherhood of churches that the Huron Christian Church is a part of, we like to call it the Restoration Movement, is at the heart of what it's called. And in this area, our kind of bread and butter territory is Wisconsin, Minnesota, Dakotas, Iowa. You know, if we were to pull back and look 50, 60 years ago, there used to be a Dakota Christian College, there used to be an Iowa Christian College, there used to be a Nebraska Christian College, and then there was Crossroads. And all the Dakota's closed, Iowa's closed, Nebraska's closed, and we're still here. We've had to rebrand ourselves, like many places and people have had to rebrand themselves, but this is a big territory that wasn't being serviced to provide an opportunity for Christian higher education in our movement. And so there's a huge need for something like this, for the churches, 50 plus churches in Wisconsin, 50 plus churches in Minnesota, over 125 in Iowa, for the churches here in South Dakota. Where do you turn to in times of need? Where do you turn to when you're looking for a new minister? Where do you turn to, for just different opportunities? And so we do the education piece, but I would transition, and we can talk maybe here in a little bit about all the church resources that we have that we want to come alongside to help strengthen churches as well. But is there? I don't want to cut us off from the ministry training aspect either.
Well, one thing that I was just going to mention too is what seems to stand out to me, and it's one of the things that I've struggled with, and I think is a struggle for a lot of people, is we, or at least myself as a Christian, I tend to compartmentalize my life sometimes, where I say, okay, this is my job, this is my faith, this is my, these are my hobbies, and I keep them separate. And so the idea of having that ministry, the 2 years of being engaged in the ministry and connecting that to, your occupation, if you end up going into business administration or something other than the ministry, having that tie-in and that connection, I think, is something that could be incredibly valuable, just in that sense, to break down some of those walls and barriers between the different areas of our life that, again, people like me, tend to compartmentalize. And, I do real estate appraisals. And so it's like, okay, so I'm an appraiser and I'm a believer and I'm a golfer or a Vikings fan. I set up all these barriers between those kinds of things. And so having something like that, I think, is incredibly valuable.
Well, let me just share how we've already done this with the Huron Church. Just a couple of years ago, there was a desire from some in the church here to get some additional training, and it was in the area of evangelism. And so I had the opportunity 2 years ago I think there was a group of 8 or 9 people here from the church that I did a video simulcast course with them here, a college level course, taught the class with them. They took it on a Sunday evening. I think we did it over 8 or 10 weeks long, and so that's a perfect example of what you were just talking about, Matt. Is this was a personal evangelism class that you don't just keep your faith to yourself and keep it for Sunday morning, but many parts of that class were talking about, okay, how do we go about and having a conversation about Christ with those that we interact with, either in our home or in our work or in our community? How do we take the faith that we, that is so valuable and important to us and really help have that permeate into the world around us? How do we love our neighbor and bless the world through the faith that we have? And that's what that course was all about. And so so we have opportunities like that through the partnerships that we have to be able to bring that type of collegiate level experience and the practical application back to this local church here, which is a great blessing for us.
Awesome. And just kind of looking at, I see like one of the things that you are involved in is natural church development, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit. I'm just kind of just in looking at it from a surface level. One of the things that I always maybe it was a misconception. I don't know what the right word would be, but growing up in the church, you think that church leadership structures and those that are leading a church, just they have it all together. They have all the answers, and Al, of course, does. He is he is perfect, so we won't talk about that. But just from a more general and broad sense, you just think that everybody has it all together when they're at that point. But in terms of what we're looking at here in terms of natural church development and helping churches grow and expand and help them develop their leadership, maybe you can talk about that and how Crossroads is working towards that.
Yeah, natural church development would be one of many resources that we can bring to bear upon a local church. So we've talked about the ministry training side a little bit, but we also have these resources to help strengthen the local church, and NCD is just one of them. I'm a certified natural church development coach, and I've been through the training, and what I can do is I can bring this experience into a church. It's based upon an assessment that the church does here, and it looks at 8 quality characteristics of the church. The thing I love probably most about natural church development is it doesn't tell the church what they need to do. It tells them, okay, this is an area to focus on, but it doesn't then just say, well, here's this program that you need to roll out to become more effective. What it does is it says these are some principles, and so then I would come alongside of a church and to say, okay, how can we begin to implement and apply these principles in the local church to help it be more effective? That's part of strengthening a local church, is that you want to make sure that in every aspect of your ministry, you're as effective as you want to be. And natural church development is a well-respected program. It's been taken by over 100,000 churches here in the United States and well over that around the world. It's been around for about 25 years, and it's worked with churches from all different denominations, all different backgrounds, and it's boiled down to 8 different quality characteristics that are assessed, and so that's a great program that can be brought into any church that can help them over a span of about 9 to 12 months. And one of the things that I like to talk about it is it's kind of like a physical checkup that we're supposed to go to the doctor. Us men aren't very good at that, but you're supposed to go to the doctor, every year and get your physical, and they'll give you your stats kind of on where you're at and what you need to do to improve. Well, NCD is like a physical for the church, and it gives it a snapshot. It doesn't tell you where your church maybe was 2 years ago, and it's not telling you where your church is going to be in 2 years, but it tells you where your church is right now. And based upon where you are right now, you can make some adjustments to become more effective. It also is very helpful for churches who are seeking to do some strategic planning or figure out some initiatives that they might want to do. Maybe you as a church are trying to say, hey, what should we focus on this next year? I know a lot of churches, they try to have something every year that they're focusing on. Well, NCD gives you a laser focus into one of 8 areas to focus on in that next year. I've helped about 15 churches do this now, and it's designed to not just be a one-time thing, but that because it's like that physical that you do, for your actual health, it's designed that it can be done every 2 to 3 years and be a process that is embedded into the life of the church of bringing about effectiveness in every aspect of the church. Every church is different. I mean, I haven't, I can't say that, this is the one that keeps showing up. I mean, it's a different one in every church. But what I can say is I've had, for example, I've had 2 different churches where effective structures, that's one of the 8 quality characteristics, where effective structures was their lowest area. Again, the great thing about it is not this packaged program that then says, well, here's the way that you have effective structures. No, what we begin to do, what I do is I come alongside a team of people in your church who take these results and we begin to dig behind and say, why is that? Why is that the weak area for your church? A visual, if you can do a visual on a podcast, imagine this, is that you have a barrel that has all these slats on it. And as you fill up the barrel, how high is the water going to go? The water's only going to be filled up to the lowest slat. And so that's a great visual that NCD uses to say, you know what, if we want to put more water in our bucket, if we want to be more effective as a church, we have to raise the level of these slats that are holding the water in. And so that's what we try to do. And so we dig down to say, let's say for effective structures, why is it for your particular church in this particular time that this is an issue for you? And so again, I've dealt with a couple different churches where that is their lowest issue. And the answer, the solution that they come up with were different for both churches. One church, it was mostly a communication issue. And so they then had to figure out how to communicate better. For another church, they had never developed them. It was a newer church, and they had just been doing stuff, and they hadn't ever taken the time to create these structures in the first place. And so they had to start at a different place. So that's a little bit about how it works. So I can't say that there is one that stands out more than the others. They're all equally important for a church to be effective.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that feedback. I think we've talked a handful of times just about, the complexities of the church and how it's not, you think of a church and you're teaching the Bible. How hard can it be? You have a book, you teach that book, and there you go. But in reality, all the moving parts and pieces that go on, behind the scenes at a church, whether it comes to volunteers or whether it comes to the programs or services you offer and the type of worship you have, there are so many different areas. And so, it's interesting to hear that take. And what's been your experience with once you identify those issues within churches, the receptiveness to adapt and change? Because I know sometimes that can be tough. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of different opinions and different attitudes, and so what's that been like, getting churches to make, or getting them to at least acknowledge the necessary changes that should or maybe need to be made?
Yeah, so I'll mention one thing first, and then I'll get into that answer, is I have some church leaders who come up to me and say, why do we need to take the assessment? I know my church. I know where we're weak. I know where we're strong. And like I said, this has been
talk about Al there.
Yeah. This has been done by over 100,000 churches here in the U.S. And so they have some great data on it. And they found that actually a pastor is only accurate in predicting where they most need to grow about 25 to 30% of the time. So even pastors are skewed in how they view it. And the great thing is about this is that it's an assessment that your church does. So when I come in, I'm not telling you where you need to be more effective. You're telling yourselves where you need to be more effective. And so that gets at the heart of your question of how do churches receive it, is I just simply say, I'm not telling you this. You did the assessment, and you are telling yourselves this. And depending on what it is, sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow. For example, one of the 8 quality characteristics is called loving relationships. If I'm talking about effective structures like I did earlier, that's kind of arm's distance away structures. We can figure that out. But when I talk about loving relationships, that means I have to start looking at my heart. And that's probably the hardest one. usually churches aren't surprised when they get it back because they can look and say, oh yeah, there's been some stuff that's been happening here, and so I haven't had a lot of pushback in the actual results that they've received. It's just a lot of hard work, and really where the hard work becomes, and people sometimes think, oh, we did the assessment, we're good, and they kind of put it in the file. The hard work is when you begin to implement, to say, what are the things that we need to do? What is that C word? That's a 4-letter word in the church called change. When we begin to have to change some things to be more effective, that's oftentimes where the most resistance comes. But again, my role is as a coach to come alongside the church, again, not to tell you how to do it, but to help you work through that process.
I think just to add a little bit, just from the perspective of wanting to take something, a course like that or assessment like that, is from some angles of a church, it's to bring to light things that we know are holding us back, and yet I think we end up finding sometimes it's broader than the scope is broader, or it might even be more narrow. So to have somebody come and want and desire that, I think they're looking for answers, looking for help to move forward. Those that probably don't desire to have something like that are knowing where the problem lies in it, possibly with them, or that's going to be hard, or it's going to be difficult. And I think the ones who are looking at moving forward with it are ready for the challenge. Let's go for it.
And I don't want to spend all our time on this area of our church resources. We have many other that we can discuss, but again, the real value comes in when you do it the second time and when you do it the third time. And I've been blessed to see churches take the survey multiple times and to see tremendous growth in the life of the church. And that's not only growth in terms of numbers, but it's in the quality of the church as well. Sure, there's been quantitative growth in churches, and that's wonderful, and that's oftentimes where we look at. But NCD also measures the quality of church that your church is, and so. One church, I just am working through their second assessment now, and this is not typical. So we need that little asterisk like you see on those weight loss commercials, so that result's not typical, but they had an 80% growth from first survey to second survey. And I can tell you, just from an observer who walked in the doors the first time I walked into the doors of that church before they even did their first assessment, to walking in their doors after they took their second assessment, the environment of the church was night and day. It went from a church that was, people didn't smile when they came in, and there was no excitement to be there, to people who were, inviting friends and excited, and there was just a different spirit about it. And again, is in all this is God has to be in it. God has to be in it. There's the parable of the sower that says, that the man scattered his seed, and he scattered it, but who causes the growth? But God brought the growth. It happened as if it was by chance, that all of a sudden the seed sprouted and grew, but it doesn't just happen by chance. God has to be in it. And so while we can talk about these 8 quality characteristics, we cannot forget the importance and the role of God and his work within the local church. The church is his. It is the bride of Christ. And so we're trying to make the bride to be as beautiful as he has said that it should be. And we're just trying to remove any barriers and obstacles to what he wants to do. And that's really what NCD is about, is just taking away the obstacles, the barriers, the things that get in the way, the things that we as humans do that make his bride less effective. And so if we can come alongside that, if we can help strengthen the church, again, that's a win for us. And this is one of the many tools that we have in our toolbox.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the other resources. Just looking at the website here, I see you have leadership conferences and seminars, ministers roundtable, pastor care, and minister benevolence fund. Maybe you can touch on a few of those. Real estate appraisals. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, some of those, like Todd was talking about, is basic things to the church that we know need to get done. I mean, you have to have volunteers in a church. It's great to have your paid staff, but if you don't have volunteers like Matt running this podcast, if you don't have volunteers in your nursery, if you don't have volunteers greeting, if you don't have volunteers teaching Sunday school classes, it takes volunteers, and so maybe you just want to do some just basic training for general volunteers, no matter what area. Again, that's where a workshop could come in, or you guys decide, this fall we're going to focus on small groups. And so, Al and his team, they begin to recruit some small group leaders, but you don't just send out, you can't just send out a small group leader and say, well, it's not very effective to just say, well, just play this video. That's not very good. And so, again, we could come in, do a workshop. Those are the workshops or seminars that we do. We could do a workshop, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it was, that's designed around your needs to train up these small group leaders. And then, like Todd said, is we do a training in August, and they get on, they start doing small groups for 2 months. Let's come back and say, how'd that go? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Help, that's where we can come alongside. Now, can Al do this himself? Yes. How many hours a week do you want your pastor working? There's an interesting study a few years ago that they surveyed 12 elders in a church. It was a bigger church, but they surveyed 12 elders, and they gave them all these things that a pastor should be doing. And then they collated the responses. And when they collated the responses, they then collated them, and they put for each of these items of what a pastor should do just the minimum amount of hours. So what is the minimum, after they collated their responses? And it was that they expected their pastor to work 112 hours a week. Whew.
That's pretty light.
Yeah, that's pretty light.
Al,
So that's just an example of Al's a great pastor, and yet he has limited capacity. And so if there are things that we, again, can come alongside your church to help it to be more effective, to fulfill the vision that God has given you for this church, if we can do that, that's a win for your church, and that's a win for us. And so we're here to really bless and serve your church to help it to be what God has called it to be. And so, again, whether that be, we've talked about evangelism or volunteers or small group leaders, or, you have youth workers and helping them to be more effective. We could go on and on and on, and we can come along. That's our role for the local church, because we want to see the local church thrive. And that's that. And then we need that. We need that in this region. We need more healthy, effective churches.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's Al's youth or if it's the endless supply of Diet Mountain Dew in his fridge, but he has been churning on, working overtime for quite some time. And one of the areas that I see here under your resources is pastor care. And you list some statistics there, like 33% of pastors felt burned out within their first 5 years of ministry. And 50% of ministers starting out will not last 5 years. And so maybe you can talk about that a little bit. We're very fortunate to have Al. What is it, 10 years now you've been serving here at Huron Christian Church? 10 years in this building. Yeah, 10 years in this building. 20th year. See, time just goes by so quickly.
Yeah, pastor care is huge for us. A church is really only as effective as its pastor and its leaders. And so we've talked a lot about the leader stuff already, but we want to make sure that pastors are healthy. Yeah, that stat of only 50% of pastors last 5 years, well, over a 10-year period, 7 in 10 leave. So there's a huge need, and so part of it's almost twofold. Is so we're trying to flip it, and that's where the Russell School on the front end will now help new people being trained for ministry. But we have this whole slew of people who are in ministry and hurting and struggling, and oftentimes a pastor doesn't know where to turn when they have need. I know pastors love their congregation, but they often don't feel like they can be vulnerable to their board. They don't feel like they can be vulnerable to their elders because those elders are also the ones who can fire them, And so oftentimes pastors are not sure where they can turn or where they should turn. And so we want to be a place. We have a staff member who works for us. He does 8 hours a week. His full-time job of those 8 hours is to love and care on pastors. He wants to call up pastors. He has a great background. He has experience in pastoral counseling. He wants to pray with pastors. He wants to, just be that person who can hold up the pastor when they have need. It's almost like Moses, and he had Aaron and Hur on both sides to hold up his hands. There needs to be somebody who is supporting the pastor, who is behind them, who can catch them, who can be, even before they fall, can bring help to them. And so that's a huge part. So the pastor care is there. Along with that, we have something called ministers roundtables, which go deeper than just a pastor lunch, which oftentimes pastors are a part of, and those are great and those are needed. But this goes a little bit deeper, where they can have a deep time of sharing and caring for one another, learning together, praying for one another, and so we want to make sure that we're strengthening the pastors who we currently have in churches as well. Many pastors are hurting. There's a stat out there, I guess I'm a stats guy, but there's a stat out there that post-COVID here, that they're expecting 30 to 40% turnover in pastors. They're just burnt. They're just tired. They're exhausted. They'd rather go work at the gas station than work in their churches. And if we can come alongside and help just one, that's a win for us, but we want to help more than just one. And so pastor care, it really goes back to our heart again of who we are, that at the heart of who we are, yes, we said it's developing leaders and strengthening churches, but we do that because we want to serve the church. Again, it's the bride of Christ, and we want to serve it. And so we are very, very fortunate to have somebody on our staff who is solely focused on caring for pastors.
Yeah, it's always something, I can say, from my point of view, that I've taken for granted. Someone like Al, I mean, in a lot of ways, he has always appeared superhuman to me, just because his ability to take on so many different things. And I'll spend a couple hours in his office on a random morning just chatting about all the different things that I have going on in my life that are troubling, and I don't know if I've once asked him how he's doing. I don't know if I've ever asked that question. And so, seeing that type of stuff is eye-opening, and I hope that people listening can take away maybe some of the things that I've taken away from that too, is just the idea that pastors need that whether it's motivation or connection or outlet as well.
I was just going to say, Matt, I don't know about Al, but I mean, I've served in the local church for 15 years, and every note that I've ever gotten from a person, I still have. I have a file of that. And on those bad days in ministry, I would go to that file and I would open it up and get some encouragement. It can be lonely. And so just for those of you out there who are a part of this church or a part of a different church, let me just encourage you to pray for your pastor. I mean, if you send them a note, I mean, like that will give them a high for the next 2 weeks, that'll just set them apart. If you throw in a gift card to the coffee shop on top of that,
12
woo,
pack of Diet Mountain
Dew. Or a 12-pack of Diet Mountain Dew. I mean, that will be the highlight for their next year. And so it doesn't take a lot. But just to show some appreciation. The hours that it takes to prepare a sermon, to prepare lessons. And to realize that is worth it. And we do it because we want to see life change. We want to see people make commitments to Christ and grow in their commitment commitment to Christ. And so that's a whole other aside, which isn't part of this we could do a whole different podcast on pastor care. So,
Well, I have to say, not everyone stays in a place 20 years if they're getting treated bad.
that's true.
We've been in a truly blessed in a place that does love and does help provide a lot of those things. But I've seen it, and I've seen so many get hurt so bad. Very gifted, servants that have struggled so hard in churches, and man, we want to. If you have a healthy church and can provide strength to keep those churches healthy, I think, that's what we have to do. We have to be able to do that. And it might be just something. It might be an encouragement time initially for a pastor, but it might be education. It might just be raising up some things or providing some helpful tools for the churches to be able to grow. And that's why I love what's going on here at Crossroads here now, so that we can really, it's hands in, all into the churches here to help them succeed in what their purpose is for the kingdom.
And it would stand to reason, at least from my perception, that the growth of a church will only go so far as its leadership. Using the analogy that the two of you used with the barrel and the slats. If you don't have strong leadership or leadership that is actively engaged and passionate, you won't be able to reach many of the different areas that you talked about, whether it's the structures, the effective structures, or things of that nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've seen a long time. I mean, John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, that your people will only raise up to the level of your leaders, and so that's why as leaders you always have to be growing, and that leads me into one of our other things is conferences that we do. So yeah, we can do workshops, at your local church, but then we have conferences for leaders as well, where you can bring your leadership team to a conference. This fall we have one that's going to be all about eldership, and so we would love to see the local churches, not just, love to have Huron come and bring its elders, have the elders get more training. And that's sometimes what is, what we can do as well, is we can provide some elder training. Because I've seen, like Al just said, there's some great pastors who go into some places, and if the elders that are in place don't have the training, don't have an understanding, they can get chewed up and spit out. And so we have to strengthen those. We have to develop the leaders who are there, whether or not they have and help them grow in leadership skills. Sometimes you have positional leaders that don't actually have leadership skills. John's been here a long time and he's a good guy, and so we're going to make him an elder, but he doesn't know how to be an elder. And oftentimes there's no pathway to eldership in churches. There's no training once you become an elder, and so like this conference that we have, it's going to be a great tool, and it's really a starting point. It's not the ending point, but it's a starting point to say, hey, this is what it means to be an effective elder. And so that's what our conferences are designed to, not just for those are designed for leaders as well to grow in their leadership. And so that's going to be the first weekend in November up at the Andover Christian Church, just northwest of the Twin Cities. And so we're excited about that conference. And so we do one right now in Wisconsin every year and in Minnesota. You guys have a great one here in the state of South Dakota already through the Northern Plains Evangelistic Association. And so we don't want to step on another organization's toes. We don't want to step into their territory. They're doing a great job. And so we want to come alongside what they're doing and help make sure that it's as best as it can be, and that it can be as effective for helping the churches that they're reaching out to as well.
Todd, anything to add there?
No, we've covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I mean, this has been fantastic. My my mother always told me that I had a perfect face for radio. I'm not sure if that's nice, but I would just say thank you. And
let me encourage you that she was right.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And again, we're not presenting this, hey, Curtis and Todd have got all the answers. But God has blessed us in a way that we have resources that we are acting as a conduit to lots of different resources, that we have contacts. And it's I like the old adage, pastors aren't paid to do everything, they're paid to make sure everything gets done. And so I want to just say that we're blessed with connections. And I'm really old, Matt. I know you thought I was like in my 30s. I'm not. I'm like 50. And so it's, just the fact that I'm old, I can say, oh, here's a person. And I love, if any of my friends were here, they'd say, I love the statement of, I got a guy. I love saying, I got a guy. Looney, you got a guy? Yeah, I got a guy. So between guys like Al and myself and Curtis, and, the more relationships we have, we want people to be healthy. And a guy like Al says, I just need a week off. I need to go do something. Well, we got a guy. We can help fill the pulpit. We can help you get some training. We can help you get some R&R. We can get you some coffee. We can do some of those things. And that's really where it's at, to be honest with you. I mean, people listening right now, it's not about how we do it and our flavor and the way it's got to be. It's about the kingdom of God. It's about the kingdom of God, helping each other out, and building solid foundations. And so thanks for having us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just give a plug in again. Is we touched on many of the things we do, but not all of them. We don't want to be here, for 3 days. And so you can go to our website, crossroadschurchpartners.org. Our contact information is there. You want to learn more. We appreciate you inviting us here today to be at your church. If you're from a different church, would like us to come and share, we'd be happy to do that as well. But our website has a lot more, and we're excited for this ministry and how we can help bless the local church.
It's so great to have these conversations, and we're very grateful to have you with us today. But we have these conversations, and we've had 6 episodes now, and it's so funny how many times the topics interweave, and a lot of the highlights, the main points, the themes are connected. We've talked about at length multiple times about just how we're called to have fellowship and called to build our relationships. And so, basically everything that you said there about just knowing people, having those contacts and those relationships where you're able to step in and help in those ways, and how important it is to have those relationships and those connections. It always stands out to me how many times we talk about the same things in different ways and different instances and examples of those things, and how they're so important and relevant in our lives and in our ministries and in our churches. And so, thank you for everything that you've had to share with us today. It's just been a wonderful opportunity and a great conversation. And Al, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Well, I guess the big thing is how, if this opens our hearts and opens our minds up to not only what the Crossroads Church Partners has been doing, but what we can do and how we can be of help, not only to them, but to our churches. Maybe this is a catalyst for that to happen, and that encouragement as well. Is just that we're in it. This is a big game that we're playing. We're in it, and the only way you can you play to win. You don't play to just get by or anything else. And that's what we're trying to do here at the church. We're trying to play to win. We're trying to win this community to Christ. We're trying to encourage and help people to come to that greater understanding that they're part of this wonderful kingdom of God that's being presented, that we want them to be in for eternity. And so here we go. Let's keep at it, and let's get fired up about it.
Yeah, and if any of what we've talked about today has touched your heart, and you find it in your heart that you want to give to Crossroads Church Partners, again, they have an opportunity where you can donate on their website, you can donate on their Facebook page, or if you maybe are a little tech adverse, we could help you here. I'm sure that you could get in contact with Al or anybody here at the church, and we can help you in that way. Because obviously, I know you guys would probably agree. I mean, that's a big part, having those resources available. The more you have, the more you can help.
Absolutely,
in so many
we
ways.
are supported by the gifts of churches and individuals. We don't have a nest egg that we're sitting on, but we are supported by local churches and individuals who understand what we're trying to do, how we're trying to come alongside churches, and they say we want to help support that. So thank you for that, Matt.
Absolutely.
And again, that's why gifts. I know this is your 6th episode, but man, I really just appreciate this swag bag you gave us of the hoodie and the Yeti coffee shop gift cards, gas card, and earbuds. I mean, these are all gifts that
You're at the
are
wrong
above and
place for
beyond,
that.
I really appreciate that, Matt. And don't tell Curtis that he didn't get one, but this gym bag is going to go a long way. So I appreciate all of those freebies.
And you got the most recent iMac computer, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Duh.
Perfect. But no, I mean, these episodes are, again, they're a great opportunity to hear about the missions and the organizations that Huron Christian Church partners with and that we support. And we hope that they give all of the individuals out there listening an opportunity to just hear more about those organizations and not just necessarily see their name on a list, but to connect with you guys on a more personal basis and the stories and the opportunities and the things that you've shared with us here today. So hopefully we accomplished that, and that was one of the reasons that we wanted to start this podcast was to share a lot of that information with you. And before we go and before we close in prayer, I just want to remind everybody our services are starting to ramp up again now. Our community has done a lot, I know, here in South Dakota in terms of getting vaccinated and things like that. There has been a large number, and whether you are or not, you are, of course, welcome here at Huron Christian Church. And so with all of that taking place, it's just a great opportunity to get back into church. I know there have been a lot of people that have been precautious and hesitant to get back out and do that kind of thing. But if you are comfortable with that, we are accommodating that. We are again ramping our services back up. We're seeing more people in our services. We had a great Easter service. A lot of people there for that. So if you are feeling that, and if you're excited to get back out into the world as we kind of enter, hopefully, back into the new normal here, as time goes on, we are offering our open services. So feel free to make some invites and start coming back. We hope to see you and talk with you on Sundays. And yeah. So with that, Al, maybe you'll go ahead and close us in prayer.
Will do. Heavenly Father, thank you for just our time that we had today with Todd and with Curtis and just the Crossroads Church partners and the ministry there. Lord, I pray that you'd continue to bless their ministry. I pray that you'd open up hearts and minds and churches and individuals, Lord, to be able to be encouraged and be impacted. Help us, Lord, just to keep our focus on you and your desires for us. And I just pray that in all things, Lord, that we give you glory and honor. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. Well, that has been the 6th episode of the Huron Christian Church podcast. We thank you for listening. And again, if you haven't had the opportunity, go ahead and check out our other episodes on YouTube and keep an eye out on the podcast platforms of your choice. Hopefully, we'll be making it there shortly. See you next time.